Ronnie Jackson, Trump's former White House physician, just went on Fox News and made an absolute fool of himself. He tried to attack Biden, but it backfired immensely. But before I show you that clip, a little bit more context is needed, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about who Ronnie Jackson is. Now, Ronnie Jackson is actually quite the accomplished man. He earned his Doctor of Medicine from the University of Texas Medical Branch, and then later served in the Navy for 25 years. In the Navy, he rose to the rank of Rear Admiral and held various medical positions. And that's how he became the White House physician. And now he's a congressman for Texas's 13th district. So overall, it seems like he's a pretty outstanding guy. But in reality, there's a darker side to him that really shows how bad of a person he really is. Take a look at this clip.
Good afternoon, everyone.
He was the person most responsible for the health of 3 presidents. But a scathing new report characterizes former White House physician Dr. Ronnie Jackson as a verbally abusive boss and as careless with substance use while on duty.
These are extremely serious findings from an ethics perspective.
The report, released today by the Defense Department's Inspector General, alleges Jackson, while serving as White House physician under Presidents Trump and Obama, routinely screamed at subordinates, intimidated and belittled them, sometimes calling them idiots, lazy effers, and mother effers, and that he made sexual and denigrating comments about a female subordinate. The report, citing a witness who alleged that during a 2014 trip to Asia, Jackson said the subordinate, who was not present at the time, had, quote, great T's and what a nice A, that he would like to see more of her tattoos. On the same trip, the report cites witnesses saying Jackson pounded on a female subordinate's hotel door while drunk in the middle of the night. When she opened it, she alleges, Jackson told her, I need you to come to my room. Witnesses were concerned that Jackson was so loud at that moment that President Obama might be disturbed. Dr. William Lang, former White House physician under Presidents Clinton and George W. Bush, worked with Dr. Jackson at the White House.
I led the hiring process for him and then had the opportunity to work with him as a colleague and a subordinate for over a year. Never did I see anything that I would have thought would lead to these kinds of behaviors.
The Inspector General's report alleges Dr. Jackson routinely violated protocols for White House doctors drinking alcohol on presidential trips, that he appeared to be drunk on duty during at least one trip with Obama. And at least 6 witnesses, all of them medical personnel, told investigators that Jackson took the prescription-strength sleeping drug Ambien on long flights while on duty to provide care for government officials, including the president. The witnesses said they were concerned because Ambien often leaves users drowsy.
If the president's physician is misusing alcohol or misusing Ambien on a presidential trip, and if there's a medical emergency, the doctor may not be able to provide the medical services needed to help the president or to save the president. If that happened, it is extremely serious to our national security.
I've already submitted a statement.
Jackson, just elected in November as a Republican congressman from Texas, told CNN in a statement Democrats are using the Inspector General's report to rehash untrue attacks on his integrity. And, quote, I take my professional responsibility with respect to prescription drug practices seriously, and I flat out reject any allegation that I consumed alcohol while on duty.
Now that was from 2021, but earlier this year, we had another report that came out and said that controlled substances like opioids and sleeping medications were, quote, not properly accounted for. And this is a huge violation of federal regulation. Now, given all of this context, let's go ahead and take a look at those breaking news clips of Ronnie Jackson trying to attack Biden.
Yeah, Maria, I don't need to tell you, I don't need to tell your viewers or anybody else in this country right now that we have a serious problem here. Everyone knows it now. You don't have to be a physician. You certainly don't have to be a physician to the president to see what's going on right now. So I have sent 5 letters previously asking for President Biden to submit to a cognitive test, very similar to the one that President Trump got while he was president. And all 5 of those letters have gone completely ignored. So tomorrow I'm sending a letter to to President Biden, to his physician, Dr. O'Connor, and CC his entire cabinet. And it's embarrassing that I have to do this, and it's really embarrassing as a former White House physician to have to do something like this, but we don't have any choice based on what's going on. But I'm going to be demanding on behalf of many millions of concerned Americans right now that he submit to a drug test before and after this debate, specifically looking for performance-enhancing drugs. If they want somebody that can do this on their own, they have to make incredible decisions. They have to multitask every day. We don't want somebody who has to be medicated to perform and potentially get the job done. So I think it's important that they prove to us that he's not doing performance-enhancing drugs of any type. I feel like this is probably what's going on over this week at Camp David. He's going to be at Camp David for a full week before the debate. Part of that is probably experimenting with, just getting the doses just right, because, they have to treat his cognition. They have to give him something to help him think straighter. They have to give him something to wake him up, for his alertness. And then, he's been agitated. We see that all the time, and that's a common symptom or sign of this cognitive disorder that he seems to be suffering from. And so they're probably going to give him something to take the edge off that as well. They didn't get it right just last time at the State of the Union. He came out, he was obviously much more alert, but he was a yelling, angry old man, and he still didn't make a lot of sense. So I think they've got an uphill battle here, but I think that they're going to have to do something to try to wake him up and make him perform a little better during the debate.
It's absolutely insane that Ronnie Jackson is over here accusing Biden of using performance-enhancing drugs when he was previously overprescribing and using performance-enhancing drugs. And honestly, I think this is more a confession on his part than it is an accusation on Biden. Because is this just really the first thing that he thinks of? Is it so commonplace for him to think and be prescribing these performance-enhancing drugs that he's instantly like, oh, yep, he's definitely on them? Like, that's just absolutely insane. And people on Twitter thought the same thing. Let's go ahead and take a look at some Twitter posts of people just absolutely roasting Ronnie over here. Ronnie Jackson is projecting again. I think Ronnie should pass a drug test first before asking others to. Dr. Feelgood demanding a drug test, a shame he's not concerned about his own sobriety. At Ronnie Jackson TX, is Trump submitting to the same tests prior to the debate? Sure, as long as his guy gets one and not by any of his own people, let an independent lab do it, and let's see then if he still wants him to take one. Oh, it's embarrassing, alright, just not in the way Dr. Feelgood thinks. I see that Dr. Feelgood is embarrassing himself again. I always love these Republicans and their demanding letters and requests. I say we should do random drug testing on all elective representatives. Positive test resulting in immediate removal from office. I'm sure the GOP would be okay with this, right? It feels like Dr. JJ has performed under medication too many times during his career. Oh, the Trump White House was high AF with Ronnie Jackson as the White House doctor on the dates shown. And then a huge list of prescription orders. Prove that he's not doing something we completely made up. Thank you, Dr. Phil Mill Johnson, but it's projection. Tell us more about performing under the influence of medication, Candyman. Ronnie Jackson was demoted for his drug use. He's not one to talk. Does he still even have a license to practice medicine? Ronnie ran the White House dispensary and was extremely generous to them and himself. He sees drugs as the way to success. He tried it through booze and it ruined his naval career. So it's pretty ironic that the guy who was running the White House film mill wants to see the presidents take a drug test. Honestly, the Republicans are going to accuse Biden of drug use, cheating, and honestly probably using a body double or something like that, because they just can't admit when they have lost. So as we get closer and closer to the upcoming debates, these accusations are just going to continue to increase. It's just important to remember that these are more of just a confession on the Republicans' part, because they're the only ones who reasonably seem to be capable of thinking of these things. So just keep that in mind going towards the debates.